There is a quiet but powerful shift that occurs the moment a woman stops overgiving and starts mirroring a man's energy. No arguments. No ultimatums. No emotional explanations. Just silence, steady, intentional, and grounded in self-respect. When a woman matches a man's distance, something immediate happens inside his mind. Something he may never say out loud, but something he absolutely feels. To understand this fully, we need to walk through the mental and emotional stages a man experiences, from the first flicker of awareness all the way to the moment he is forced to make a decision about what he truly wants. This is not about games or manipulation. This is about the psychology of emotional dynamics and why your presence and your absence carries more weight than you may realize. Stage 1: Awareness. Men are deeply observant by nature, even when they pretend not to be. They notice patterns. They notice rhythms. And the moment that rhythm changes, something inside them registers it, even before their conscious mind catches up. When you suddenly stop being the one who initiates, the one who checks in, the one who keeps the emotional warmth flowing, his nervous system notices the absence before his ego even has a chance to process it. At first, his mind tries to rationalize it. He tells himself you are simply busy, tired, that nothing has really changed. These are the comfortable explanations men reach for to protect themselves from having to look deeper. But when the silence continues, when you stop rushing in to fill the space the way you used to, the rationalization starts to crack. He realizes this is not accidental. This is not temporary. Something has genuinely shifted. That realization disrupts the unconscious assumption he had been operating under, that you would always be there in the same way. Most men do not wake up thinking about control, but over time, comfort quietly becomes control. When a woman consistently shows up emotionally, initiates communication, checks in, and maintains connection, even when a man pulls back, he begins to expect it without ever asking for it. Not because he is cruel, but because humans adapt quickly to what is freely given. When you match his distance, you interrupt that adaptation. His mind suddenly loses the familiar signal it had come to depend on, and awareness sets in like stepping into a cold room he never realized he was standing in. That awareness does not arrive gently. It shows up as restlessness. He checks his phone more than usual. He notices the absence of notifications. He scrolls back through old conversations. He wonders why the energy feels different. Men do not always articulate feelings, but their behavior changes when awareness kicks in. Your absence becomes present in his mind. And here is what matters most. This awareness is not created through confrontation, arguments, or emotional explanations. It is created by silence and consistency. Matching his distance works because it does not accuse him of anything. It simply mirrors his behavior back to him, and a mirror is deeply uncomfortable when you are forced to see yourself clearly. Stage 2: Pressure. Once awareness sets in, the next thing that builds inside his mind is pressure. Not loud, dramatic pressure, quiet pressure that grows because comfort has been removed. Men operate best when life feels predictable, when communication follows a familiar rhythm, when emotional access feels guaranteed, when there is no urgency to act. Matching his distance takes that predictability away, and in its place, a question appears that he cannot ignore. What am I going to do now? At first, he may enjoy the space. This is important to understand. Men often pull back because they feel overwhelmed, distracted, or simply accustomed to having someone available without effort. So when you match his distance, he may initially interpret it as relief. He tells himself everything is fine. He focuses on work, hobbies, distractions. But silence is weight, and over time, that weight becomes noticeable. As the days pass, he begins to realize the silence is not neutral. It has direction. It is moving somewhere, and he does not know where. That uncertainty creates internal tension. Men do not like not knowing where they stand. Even emotionally reserved men want clarity, even if they never ask for it directly. When you stop offering reassurance, stop initiating, stop smoothing over the gaps, his mind starts working harder than it used to. Drifting used to have no consequences. He could show up inconsistently and still maintain access to you. Now, every hour that passes without contact feels like a choice, even if he did not consciously make it. That is what creates discomfort. Silence becomes a mirror reflecting his own inaction back at him. The longer he waits, the louder the question becomes, am I okay with losing this? Men often delay decisions when there is no immediate cost. Matching his distance introduces a cost, without confrontation. The cost is emotional distance, uncertainty, and the risk of being replaced. Even if he does not consciously think about another man stepping in, his instincts pick up on it. A woman who stops chasing signals independence. Independence signals options. Options introduce competition. And competition activates urgency in the male mind. This pressure is powerful precisely because it is self-generated. You did not demand clarity. You did not create drama. The pressure comes from his own thoughts, his own awareness of risk, his own fear of regret. Self-generated pressure cannot be blamed on someone else. He cannot say you are asking for too much. He can only confront what he is, or is not, willing to do. Stage 3. Reflection. As pressure builds, something deeper begins to happen. Reflection. This is the stage where silence stops being just an absence and starts becoming a conversation he is having with himself. Reflection does not happen immediately. Men are skilled at distraction. Work, routines, social media, daily responsibilities all act as noise that keeps deeper thoughts at bay. But silence has a way of slipping through the cracks. It shows up late at night, during quiet drives, in the moments when nothing is demanding his attention. When you are still reaching out, explaining, forgiving, and maintaining emotional closeness, his mind did not need to look backward. Everything felt intact. Now that you have matched his distance, the present feels incomplete, and the mind naturally searches the past to understand why. He starts replaying moments, conversations he brushed off, times you showed care when he gave minimal effort. Reflection forces him to see the pattern, not just isolated moments. What makes this stage powerful is that it is involuntary. You did not ask him to think about you. You did not demand self-examination. The mind does it on its own when something meaningful feels threatened. Men often do not process emotions while they are happening. They process them after the emotional supply is removed. During reflection, he begins to separate presence from value. When you were always there, your consistency blended into the background of his life. It felt normal, expected, unremarkable. Now that it is gone, he is forced to evaluate what that presence actually contributed: emotional safety, encouragement, stability, belief in him. Reflection turns invisible labor into visible loss. He realizes that what felt effortless was actually something you were choosing to give. For some men, reflection also brings guilt, not dramatic guilt, but quiet recognition. Thoughts like, she was patient with me. She did not ask for much. I could have done better. These thoughts reshape how he remembers the connection. You are no longer just someone who was there. You become someone who gave, and giving creates weight in memory. Reflection also introduces the fear of regret. Not panic, but whispers. What if I misread her? What if I do not get another chance? Distance gives regret room to grow because there is no immediate reassurance to silence it. And here is what changes everything. He begins to understand your silence differently. At first, he may have thought you were reacting emotionally. Now, with time, he sees restraint. He realizes you did not beg, explode, or demand. You simply stopped overgiving. That realization reframes you in his mind. You become emotionally mature, not dramatic. Strong, not reactive. And that shift often increases respect, even as it brings discomfort. Stage 4. Evaluation. The final mental shift is evaluation, and it is the deepest of all. Evaluation moves beyond reflection. It is where he measures the connection, weighs the value, and is forced to make a decision. Men are practical by nature. Their minds constantly seek to assign worth to relationships, actions, and emotional investment. When you stop overextending, stop initiating, stop smoothing over gaps, he is forced to ask questions he may have been avoiding for a long time. How much does this relationship mean to me? How much effort am I willing to put in? What am I willing to risk losing? This evaluation does not happen through words or confrontation. It happens in silence, in the empty spaces where your presence used to be. He begins an honest internal audit of his actions versus yours. Men often operate under the assumption that things will balance themselves out, or that their contributions are enough. But when a woman matches his distance, the imbalance is exposed. He can no longer rely on your overgiving to mask his lack of effort. He starts comparing what he invested against what you consistently gave, and that inventory can be sobering. He begins imagining life without you, not as a hypothetical, but as a potential reality. He thinks about the encouragement, the emotional safety, the laughter, the conversations that calmed his anxiety. He catalogs the real impact you had, not just the love, but the stability and balance you contributed. Men are more aware of tangible benefits than abstract emotions, and this stage makes those benefits impossible to ignore. Evaluation also engages foresight. He begins projecting outcomes based on his current behavior. If he does not act, he envisions what losing you would feel like, the regret it might bring, the gap it would leave. If he chooses to engage, he anticipates the effort required to rebuild trust, consistency, and closeness. He becomes acutely aware that time lost cannot be reclaimed, and that second chances are rarely infinite. For men who are serious, evaluation leads to a decision. They recognize that you are not simply testing them, you are demonstrating what a balanced, self-respecting partnership looks like. They begin to ask themselves honestly, am I capable of matching her boundaries? Am I willing to reciprocate consistently? Can I be the partner this connection deserves? Evaluation crystallizes into clarity. He now knows whether he is willing to rise to the occasion, to pursue intentionally and honor the standards you have set, or whether he will continue on a path of inaction and permanently risk losing you.